doing a video?
I'm doing live.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm live. Hi, everybody.
What?
So we're going to talk about exterior maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I started my live.
It's fine. You can
Oh,
see. Does anybody have?
it says due to poor wireless connection, your broadcast has been paused.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta probably. There's no Wi-Fi out here.
I turned it off.
All right, awesome.
I don't have it on.
Maybe skip it for this time then.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we are live here, and it's another exciting day. And I think what we're going to talk about is exterior maintenance of your home.
Yep.
And kind of like all the little things that I don't think people realize.
Little and big.
Little and big,
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of overlooked stuff in your exterior of your home is, we have 4 seasons here in New England. And hot and cold and leaves and snow.
All of it.
And lawn. You know, if you're down in Florida, it's green. You might got to,
Greener.
You've got to.
Tropical.
Yeah, mow your grass. That's it. But you don't have to worry about a lot of things that in New England you do.
Yeah.
And then curb appeal.
Big one.
Huge when buying and selling.
Yep.
Landscaping is like
huge
and huge money too. Like there is like
designers and landscape architects, and the list goes on and on and on.
Didn't you sell something? It was up in or a buy sell up in Winstead, and the lady had won awards or something with her gardens.
That was in Barkhamsted, and yes, was featured in national magazines. It was incredible.
Right.
It was incredible. It was this living creation that was stunning. Yeah.
But that was a lot of maintenance because you were a couple of years later, and it was kind of on the back end of it, but still beautiful. But like
still
on the
beautiful.
Back end, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a full-time job.
Yeah.
Or you need to hire for a full-time job.
And then just to get it look nice, I think the big thing is people buy newer homes in these developments, and they just have like traditional couple bushes out front, and it looks like a subdivision. If you get decent bushes, you're doing well.
Yeah.
But I think people have to realize, you remodel your home, you also need to remodel your lawn and your gardens.
Just as much inside.
Yeah.
Give just as much thought and consideration outside as you do inside, right? Is just planning, caring, thoughtfulness, a refresh. A lot of people, let's just start at the basics, right? Like, let's kind of go 101. A lot of people do mulch.
Yep.
Right? Mulching is like a thing. And we're hoping to bring somebody in, hopefully more than one person, a landscape architect or designer, a garden expert in here to have a conversation with us about these things. But there's different levels of mulch. Like, it looks good for the first 3 days, and then it gets all dried out, and color can bleed, and it just...
You can smother your plants. You have too much mulch. You build it up too high.
Or the quality's not good, so it looks... Yeah.
But I mean, listen, if you're mulching your gardens, you are a step ahead, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because,
bare minimum. Again, we're talking about get a sticker, but still
nice.
You're putting in the... I don't want to get too off the maintenance track.
Right.
But when we're talking about refreshing and ongoing maintenance, I would encourage people to think about the kind of think ahead in terms of organic gardening right? Pesticides,
Yep.
people care.
Yep.
It's already been shown that certain pesticides can make us sick.
Well, if you're you're a rural area, especially in Connecticut, I mean, you're gonna put those pesticides on your lawn, and you have a well, and
Yeah.
the pesticides are gonna go down into your well.
They get into
if
your
you guys are
groundwater, everything that
if you're
you
unfamiliar
spray.
with the water cycle,
That's
like
how it works.
what you put on your lawn is what you're gonna drink in a couple hours.
Yeah. But to encourage people, again, if you're looking, right, we're winter here.
Yep.
Spring's not, when this next season comes and everybody goes outside, it's like like everybody starts to open their windows in that first beautiful day. Make sure you're forward thinking and deciding, helping the pollinators and, when you're planning these things out, just give it some thought of who and what you're looking, your goals.
And there's a lot of thought, like when it comes to designing gardens and making it look nice. And I think, what you see is a lot of people put in the beginning, they're trying to fill stuff up. And within 5 years, you have those overgrown bushes.
Yeah.
And I think that really ties into the maintenance side of things with the, protecting your home. And we've touched on this before.
Yeah.
But when you have these bushes and they're touching the house, you're allowing pests to get in. You're creating areas where it's not
highway.
It's a highway, and
you're not letting your foundation breathe. There's so much,
Yep.
or brick or whatever. There's stone,
mold,
there's
mildew now,
growing
Yeah.
on siding. That's
Yep.
a big one.
Yep.
I think it's hilarious that every single time we start, we always start with another idea of a podcast, right?
Right.
But how many times do we walk down the street and comment, X house would look fantastic if they just power washed?
Right.
Right? Because along with the bushes, the mold, the mildew, but your house needs a shower once in a while.
Yeah.
Like it needs a little.
Rain isn't going to do it.
It doesn't do
it. And, it's kind of like washing your car. I mean, you can wait. The rain gets a little off, but it doesn't. It's still, it still has the water spots.
Yeah. And your windows inside and out.
Yes. We just had ours recently done, and it was like a new house.
Oh.
Like it was beautiful.
If you haven't done this.
If you want serious satisfaction,
It's
hire somebody to do
the most.
Yes. Love it. Love that for us.
I love that for us too.
Yeah.
We were both
We're like,
drinking
wow.
our coffee, staring out the window, and I would comment how many times?
Yeah.
Endlessly.
Yeah.
Of how excited.
Yeah. And that's one of those projects where it's cheaper than you think, and the results
The payoff
is, and that doesn't
so satisfying.
That's different than power washing.
Yeah.
So people think that, and maybe some companies will do both, but there's a difference between power washing your house and then actually getting somebody to squeegee and
streak free
and really get inside and outside of your windows.
And the screens.
Yes.
And listen, this is a project. Again, we've talked about this on our every podcast. I think this is a concurrent theme, right? That, yes, you could do it yourself.
Right.
Guess what? Most people cannot successfully wash a window without a smudge or a streak.
Right.
That's number one. Number two, you can. Let's say you do have the talent to do a whole window and it looks great. Awesome. Try counting every single window in your home.
Right.
Inside and out with the screens. That's a lot of work.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
Who wants to do that? Yeah. We certainly didn't.
It's a whole, when they did our house, the poor guy was there for 10, 12 hours.
I don't feel bad for him. We paid him great money and it was a lovely, I feel zero about it. He picked a professional. He's great at it.
No, it was good. It was definitely good.
So get your windows washed, siding,
power washed,
and trim back your bushes, plants.
HUD, which comes up with standards, and by buying and selling, if you're bringing somebody that has financing, that is HUD, has requirements that everything is cut back 18 inches, that's a good amount
Yeah.
off of a building. So
Yep.
they didn't, throw a dart at the wall and
Yeah.
come up with that.
Yeah,
There has to
it's
be
not
some
just,
data.
like, nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There has to be data around the 18-inch rule.
I sold a beautiful house. It was historic. It was gorgeous. Talk about it. Also they had a pesticide-free organic lawn and garden.
Mm-hmm.
It was stunning. Ivy is popular around here, different varietals.
Yep.
And my clients may or may not be watching. That might not have been ivy. I'm not fully, abrupt or up on all my plant varietals, but it was a vine that bloomed, and it was gorgeous when it bloomed. Well, guess what happened when it wasn't in bloom? It looked like an abandoned haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
It just looked awful. Yeah. And vines are no different than plants, right? They look pretty, and there's ways to get stuff to like creep. You could have a trellis type of thing, but let's not talk about siding and the brick up a chimney.
Right.
Like, talk about then your rodents, like you have like triple the problem all in one.
All the things.
So for, even if it's not causing you problems, like I had a very tough conversation, which I love to have. I'm good at it. That's why I'm good at my job. I'm great at my job, but I just had to call them and say, listen, I won't list this if this is here, because I will not be able to do my job. So, particularly if you're ready to start, if you think you're going to start, getting in the game.
It's cleaning out the inside, but it's cleaning the outside, trimming that stuff back.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think where you touch the organic kind of the exterior, there's a movement there, and I think that's the whole podcast. So talking about
100%.
putting the clover lawn, so you can get they're drought tolerant.
Yeah.
You're not using as much water. They're
Totally.
obviously bee friendly because
Yeah.
they have the flowers. All that stuff's a lot of fun, but the maintenance is we have a rental property where we've let the tenant mow the property and doesn't really mow a good job, and you go up there a couple years later and the lawn's half the size because they haven't been mowing properly, and now the trees and the bushes have like encroached. And similar to when we bought our house, there was a teeny yard, and you could tell like it wasn't when they first bought it. So it's all of that kind of maintenance that if you're not trimming things back, if you're not really mowing and kind of fighting back the forest.
Or making friends with the forest. Right? Like just, figuring it out.
But if you don't, you're going to have when somebody else comes in, now they're going to need a chainsaw to cut everything back instead of having to.
Tree work is very expensive. For those of you who don't know or haven't had to deal with it for whatever reason, it is extremely expensive. And just like I had mentioned on the interior of a home, your buyers are pricing it just the same for an exterior. So if they see, right, that XYZ from an exterior perspective needs to be done, you have a tree that's dead, that's still standing, it's not, needs to be taken down. That factors into cost.
And the big thing with big trees around your home, and in a buy situation, the sell doesn't really matter. But in a buy situation, it's a new insurance company now looking and inspecting that property.
Yep.
So you might have gotten past something in the appraisal. The appraisal didn't come up.
Yeah.
Or the home inspection.
Yeah, like for
and
whatever
honestly,
reason.
That's just for informational purposes only.
That's
the problem is
in there.
The problem is when the insurance company sends you a little note and says, we're not interested in insuring you because you have a death tree above your house and it's about to fall. So
great.
Yeah, but sis,
It's true. No, it's I don't know that they say that. I'm sure there's more technical.
Yeah, yeah. It's better. It's better worded.
Yeah, it's better worded.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. And yeah, it's that way. I'm trying to think of other common driveway.
Yeah.
On another topic, driveway of exterior maintenance.
Love that.
Yeah.
You know, it's starting to get cracks.
I know.
You know, and now's the time. Dig out the cracks. Fill the cracks in, seal it, and because again, we're now that's something that isn't an issue in warmer climates, but in New England, you have a crack in your driveway. Well, it's crazy the last couple days, but all this water in the crack, then it freezes that night. It pushes the crack, expands it, pops it up, and now you have like a whole area that's loose.
Yeah.
But if you had sealed it, the water wouldn't have gone in there, it wouldn't have frozen, and it wouldn't have popped.
I went into a $1.5 million plus home, and I just went to a broker's open, and it was clear that the driveway was
this has aptogens in it.
Adaptogens.
It's not a beer.
It did sound. Thank you for. Is it good?
Yeah, it's not bad.
I want to try it. Maybe we can get a brand deal.
Too far. You're too far away.
Pass it over.
Top water. Where did we get
anyway,
this?
Okay. Let's stay focused. Driveway.
We'll cut it out.
So,
oh, that is nice.
Give it now. I hand it over.
I gotta get up.
Hello. Oh, good. That's delightful.
All right, so we're back here.
Driveway. So
driveways.
I went
Sealing
into,
driveways. And now here's an example.
I went into a 1 point, whatever it was, over $1.5 million priced home for a broker open to look around.
Which is like a shed in today's market.
It was not a shed. It was actually gorgeous. It had
nice.
Beautiful piece of. It was not. But my point is that whoever decided to try to fix the driveway, it was a DIY all over. So, and I don't know if you have a great answer for this. What do you think is the threshold? Like, when do you say enough is enough?
Well, I think
like the DIY like patch job.
I think it kind of goes back to a video that has done well about not painting, and the reality is like if you're doing something small enough that you have enough muscle, like you can, if you've got a 10 by 20 driveway.
Yeah, then
have at it.
Yeah,
but the problem is if it's big,
a whole hill, and it was. Yeah.
If it's big and it's long, you're just not you're gonna do a good job for one little square of it. You're gonna get tired, and then the rest of the job is not gonna be done well, and then you're just wasting time because that stuff. It is about prep. When you're resealing it, it's really about making sure you wash it properly.
Yeah.
Get all of the dust and the debris off. Really dig out those cracks.
Yeah.
And if there's a lot, and you don't want to do that, or you get tired, it's just gonna peel up after.
Yeah. Well, I think this is another and one theme that we've talked about a lot, and I'd like to drive home again, is at the end of the day, it's your money. We believe, I know I could speak for you, like as long as you're setting your goals and doing what, like enjoy it,
right?
Like live your life, right? Yeah. Where I'm going with this in terms of maintenance is I also think to my example, that it should somewhat reflect the size and price of your home. And what I mean by that is like that homeowner should have never, tried to DIY it.
Right.
obviously it's a learning process and everything else, and you want to take care of your house in some ways. Some people do, some don't, but make sure that you're taking a step back if you do like to do stuff, right? There's a lot of people who do. Like,
yeah, it's a Saturday thing. Yeah.
For example,
Yep.
I like to mow our lawn.
Yeah.
It's something that brings me joy. I would never pay, or never say never, but right now I would not pay somebody to do that. I really like it. So like if that homeowner wanted to do the driveway, maybe they could just pause, think about it, and
watch some YouTubes.
Or make a different choice that would give them the same satisfaction for just like better payout. Right.
But I think the key thing about what this podcast is about is bringing awareness of all of the things that need to be done.
Yeah.
And if that's not in your wheelhouse, or you're not going to have the time, this stuff all catches up with you. So if you don't reseal the driveway, eventually you have to replace it much quicker. If you don't cut the trees back, then you're fixing mold, mildew, even water damage, pests. So you're going to pay for it either way.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it, and I think people need to understand when they buy a home, there has to be a certain amount of money being put aside for the interior. And now, today we're talking about the exterior.
Let's talk about decks.
Decks are fun.
They are fun.
And, I think one of the fastest growing spaces in the last couple of years has been exterior spaces.
Yeah.
People want to be outside.
Like outdoor entertainment areas. Yeah.
Like, it's a big market when you go to Lowe's and Home Depot, is like the exterior furniture.
Yeah.
Like the furniture is getting like just as nice as what's inside.
Yeah, yeah.
You have full like living room sets outside.
Oh, 100%. There's all the major like Ethan Allen, all of them have like lines. Yeah. Which don't tempt me with a nice couch outside.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We love comfortable seating.
Yes. It's critical. We literally judge our restaurants by if it has comfortable seats.
100%.
And we try out the seats, and if we don't like it, it has to be moved.
No.
Or we'll bring and we joke around about bring your own pillows. We need back pillows for these bad chairs. But the salmon's good.
If you're listening,
please
take that into up your game.
Yeah.
We're sidetracked again, but
decks.
Outdoor. Let's talk about decks and
maintenance
patios.
on decks.
Yeah.
Maintenance on decks, pressure treated. Listen, guys, if you are not painting / staining, the best to do is a solid stain for any wood decks, because that's going to help. The solid part of the stain is the UV protectant, because you go 5-6 years without doing it. Now it breaks down. It's just breaking the wood down, and now you have to replace it because the UV has broken down the actual structure of the wood.
Yeah.
So, and then on the flip side, composite is really nice. And they've come a long way. The new stuff is good, but some people, back in the day, you were just doing straight PVC. You still have to power wash it.
Yeah, there's still mold. It's not
gets mold
like
and mildew.
Set free.
Yeah.
Forget it.
And they're hot.
Yeah.
The PVC ones are just garbage. I mean, you can't walk on it in the summertime. It's so hot unless
and
you're
you have
in
to
shoes.
Think about, of course,
pets, kids, all that stuff. And it's
just for comfort and use. You're not going to be outside normally in the winter time. I mean, you're going to be outside when it's nice and warm, and if you can't be barefoot comfortable, then what's the point?
Yeah, and a new like PVC deck can be like $150 a square foot, which is you just spent $80,000 for the back, and you can't walk on it because it's too hot. But
which is why you need a good contractor that you trust to
knows
help
what
you.
To do.
Yeah,
yeah,
and guide you.
Yeah, because then now they have certain products that have. That are composite, that have the wood in it, and it keeps it a little bit cooler.
Oh.
But and they're more rigid because the stuff's bouncy. But we're talking about the maintenance, and if you have pressure treated, you know, or mahogany, ipe, those are different woods.
Yeah.
You know, you have to seal it. You have to keep it sealed.
You have to take care of it. And
Yep.
yeah.
And railings too. I mean, those deteriorate pretty quickly.
Upper and lower.
Yep.
All of it.
All of it. You know.
So I think a lot of people, if they do take care of it, are just taking care of the parts that you could see.
Right. And then all of a sudden
underneath,
right,
where it will rot.
Because you can't reach there.
Right.
With the paintbrush.
Right.
And then the water's dripping down there, and all of a sudden the bottom of your balusters start flopping around because they're all rotted out.
Yeah. So it's an important thing to keep in mind is that it's like even the stuff that you can't, like, just because you can't see the mold and mildew on the side of your home doesn't mean you shouldn't power wash, right? Like, because this is sort of like it's a reactionary way to live.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're suggesting is that you become proactive.
Right.
And instead of waiting for something to happen, you're just taking a lot of mindful steps to prevent it.
Yeah. You know, when you start to hear the squirrels in the attic, you're like, let me go cut all these trees back.
The bats flying around. Yeah.
So lots of stuff. You've got the trees, you got the driveways, you have the decks, power washing, and then just landscaping in general is a lot. You know, it's kind of a remodel.
Totally.
You know, it's a continued, you know, to make a house really look nice. Gardens are, you know, are a big part of the curb appeal.
Yep. Outside of, like, so we talked about window washing and that kind of thing, gardens.
Yep.
Front doors, side doors.
Yep.
Garage doors.
Yep.
Right? Making sure that all is like washed down, and some people don't have siding. So if you have like, meaning not siding.
I was wondering where you're going.
I know.
No siding.
Like, I heard myself
where
say
are
it.
we?
I know. Well, you know.
Well,
you have an igloo. But you might paint your house. Your house if it's not, you know.
And that's the same thing with decks. You don't, you know, at year 5.
Yep.
Or if you've done a really good paint job at year 10, you're not repainting.
Talk about colors.
Yes. So colors. I mean, there's a reason why we painted a lot of houses white, because obviously it looks great, but darker colors are going to fade.
Yeah.
You know, and they're going to absorb a lot more heat from the sun. So
same thing with roofing materials, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, you know, you want to do a light color. But you need to paint. It's 10, 15 years tops that needs a very good paint job each time. So when you don't do it, now you've opened up the house for moisture.
Yeah.
And you know, you might have to go replace the rotted spots now if you've waited 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that we haven't necessarily hit. I mean, there's a whole checklist, like gutters, and, you know, making sure those are clear.
Do a whole podcast just on gutters, because gutters is probably the single. Like, I know that people were getting water in the basement just yesterday because we had all that rain.
Yeah.
And the simple and everybody's freaking out and calling the basement companies when if they had cleaned their gutters and made sure the downspouts were pushed off of
away
the
from
house far enough, they wouldn't have gotten any water. And the basement companies are gonna sell a lot of sump pumps when they don't necessarily need them.
Yeah. The other thing to think about is overall drainage.
Right.
And that could be helpful, like, again, when we have our next podcast on gardening and, you know, something like that, talking about like rain barrels, but there's different techniques if you do have an issue or want, for whatever reason, to move water away from your home.
Mm-hmm. and it's
different drains, curtain
worth it.
drains, things
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, and it's,
I
you know,
just thought about like door jams,
mhm.
like, like entryway, like
Yeah.
trim, all that kind of thing too.
Patios. We
Yeah, I
haven't even
know.
gotten into that. The patios, power washing, but again, doing a good power wash, but then replenishing that Palomar sand that fills the cracks in, because people are like, why is the weeds growing in my patio? Well, that's a maintenance.
Right.
You need to dig out all that dirt that's gotten in between the patio stones,
Yeah.
and then you need to fill it with it's basically like a grout, but it's a dry grout, and then when you spray, it's a there's a polymer in it, and it strengthens.
Yeah. But a word to the wise, not about all power washers, but there are some that are super powerful and will put holes into siding, into even stone, like brick, like
and
mortar.
Be careful. You have that old vinyl siding, and it becomes very brittle out that 25th year, that 30 years of vinyl siding, and all of a sudden you're sitting there, having a good old time with your, homeowner special, power washer, and you step aside and you see these big swirls in your siding, or you've cracked it, or you've really damaged the. So that's fun.
Another thing, as a complete aside, this is like not it's maintenance adjacent. Let's call it that. Remember when you have vinyl siding, that heat and vinyl siding don't mix. So when you decide for whatever, you got the new grill and you're ready to fire that baby up, please think about where you're placing it, because it will melt and or damage. Melting is damage the siding.
100%. We have a rental property that has it nice on the back, and was like, wow, it doesn't look great.
Does not look great.
Doesn't look great. It wasn't terrible, but it was.
No, I've had a listing appointment. I've actually had a listing where it happened as well.
Yep.
It's things, again, when you're not fully thinking about. I mean,
clean your grill. There's a maintenance thing too.
Well, that's just like a food safety issue, not so much for your home, but yes. Yeah. But if you do have an outdoor kitchen,
what's the thing?
If you're,
the mice and the rats have been in there all winter,
and you hope that
because it's a great little home,
because you've done what you needed to do to take care of it, clean it up, and make sure it was as secure as possible. But yeah.
All right, cool. Well, that went
extremely
30
fast.
minutes very quickly, and that's just touching on the exteriors of
and
your
I don't
home.
even think we touched on all of it.
No, we just did the main points.
Yeah,
there is a lot more. The highlights.
Yeah.
I think our goal is to get a pool person in here
100%
to really kind of go into that, because that's a whole other fun activity.
Yeah.
Gardens and all of that stuff are big.
Yep.
And even arborist. Like there's a whole
100%.
There is a person called an arborist, which is just for trees. It's not a tree cutter. It's somebody that knows about trees and all of those things.
100%.
So if you're
stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
The conclusion.
Like, subscribe,
and
all of the good things.
Leave me a sip.
And this hop water from
is
not. All right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.